It's been a while, hasn't it? But alas, I'm back on the field and ready to play softball again. I know, I've got the top 20 personal favorite video games to do, but for now, coming back fresh, I need something a little more mellow to start with to stretch my countdown legs again. Oh yeah, Zelda. I guess I do those countdowns sometimes, I guess. I don't think there are really any rules to go over for this countdown. It's a top 10. It will come down to which characters I like more than others, and it's my personal opinion. I think you've been around countdowns long enough that you know how this goes. So let's get started with my favorite Zelda characters in the Legend of Zelda series. So, I'll be starting off with Wind Waker for my first entry. Now, if there's something to compliment Wind Waker for starting with this game and the Zelda series onwards, it's the improvement to the character interactions. You can see the changes and animations in the characters' faces. They lean forwards, make cute noises, use arm gestures. Just overall, it makes the experience better story-wise. Anyways, I think these improvements is what makes this guy stand out. Quill from the Rito tribe. Instantly, when I first laid eyes on him, carries such an authoritative and serious look about him that makes me respect the guy. When you first meet him around Tetra on the outside island, he actually stands up for Link and brings out his Ace Attorney skills and nails Tetra hard at her own argument game to convince her to bring Link along. So, props to Quill for that, because I frankly don't like Tetra that much. She's really harsh on Link sometimes, which, that's not cool. But along with that, he also runs into Link often with him being the postman, at which brownie points because I like checking up with characters often in my video games. But overall, it's because Quill, along with being a good friend and standing up for Link when he needed to at the beginning of the game, also helps him out with any information, advice, appears often to help him out, and actually saves Link's life at one point. Let's be frank here, the Game Boy Triforce of the Zelda games, Link's Awakening, Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages, are the most underrated games of the Zelda franchise. And that's fine, the Game Boy hardware can't match up to the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation being promoted at the time, and admit it, everyone was drooling over the graphics. So some came across these three games when they came around like I did, and some didn't. So anyways, it's more likely that you won't have seen this next character. In Oracle of Seasons and Ages, there are three animal companions you can come across. Moosh, a flying blue bear that can hover over gaps and butt stomp on some enemies. Dimitri, a red dodongo that can cross water, go up waterfalls, and can eat enemies. And the number 9 entry, Ricky, the kangaroo that can jump up ledges over pitfalls and use some boxing gloves to kill enemies. It's a jumping kangaroo that can hit enemies with boxing gloves. It's a jumping kangaroo that can hit enemies with boxing gloves. That's so awesome! Whoa, I didn't think that voice would be coming up again. The reason I picked Ricky is that he's such an energetic guy. He's a boatload of a fun companion to have when going through the level designs. He lets you ride in his pocket to get you places. You can get a flute that can summon him to your spot. He has a cute call. And he takes care of baddies like a boss. The only downside is that when you start up a new game, you're randomly grouped with one of the three companions. So there's a good chance you won't see him that much if he isn't assigned to you to be your permanent partner. Which in my opinion is fine because I like Moosh and Dimitri too. They just don't have epic boxing gloves, that's all. So, for my number 8 spot, we'll be going to Phantom Hourglass. Yeesh, that was fast. Back, boy. Back! I know Phantom Hourglass is considered the taboo Zelda game for many players because of the Temple of the Ocean King, which I admit, it's pretty bad. So that's a fair reason. For me, I can handle it just fine as long as I play other video games frequently along with Phantom Hourglass, like Devil May Cry? Yes, violence, yeah! But anyways, to the character. She actually makes Phantom Hourglass a lot more fun and smooth sailing, who happens to be Ciela, who is your fairy companion. First thing I'll say about Ciela is that she has a mouth and is extremely critical towards Linebeck, and to be fair, he deserves it. Linebeck is lazy, makes Link do all the work, chickens out of confronting his enemies and his responsibilities, and oh boy, the guy is an idiot. Some like him, and I respect that, but I do not. I like Ciela because while I do give her bonus points for bad-mouthing Linebeck, she also carries a big personality in her own right compared to a lot of Link's companions in the series in my opinion. She's very helpful and more expressive than Tattle and points out necessary clues like a companion should, just without the fee to go with it for baggage. I think why I like her a lot is because she behaves like I do. It's cool to be nice and friendly normally, but when you've got to get it out when something goes wrong, she'll do it and start bad-mouthing what she doesn't like. She has a very distinct personality, and I like personality. I prefer personalities that show a lot about a person with their different moods, rather than a static personality that just stays the same throughout the whole game, which is honestly a few of Link's companions, no offense, and that's why I love Ciela. My next entry is from Wind Waker. Oh, come on guys, you know who it is. Who else could it be? You know what? I've been sitting here writing in my script here for a while, staring at the computer screen to try to figure out why I like Medli so much. And I know you expect me to say something insightful or deep to liking Medli, but can I start in saying that Medli is flat out adorable with her appearance, enthusiasm, and her adult-like behavior? I think a big reason for this is because she's training to look over Valoo and becoming sort of a mother figure to Prince Kamali, which probably led to these disciplined and good-natured personality traits. That makes sense. But of course, the main reason that Medli is so popular and well loved is because of her bravery with Link going to the Dragon Roost Cavern and the Earth Temple. And I had to ask myself, why do we love her for that? Link is brave all the time. He's gone through endless amounts of adventures and dungeons, so why are we so impressed when Medli does it? And my guess is that we're so stinking used to Link being brave in every single Zelda game that, let's face it, it's about as overblown as a cliche as you're gonna get. Think about it, in this Zelda game, who gets captured? Zelda. Who rules over Hyrule? Ganondorf. And who has to do the saving? Link. Now you could debate with me that different people get captured in different games like Din and Nehru in the Oracle games, or that there are different rulers like the Skull Kid that is doing the ruling in Termina in Majora's Mask. But the third variable, Link, what is he doing in every Zelda game ever? All 18 games. Doing the saving. It's an extremely overblown cliche that Link has to do the saving every single goddamn time. It's a sickening and overdone trope for Link if you think about it. We like Medli because for the only time ever in the Zelda series, she voluntarily joins you to go through 2 dangerous dungeons. I'd pick Makar for the spot, but let's face it, the Wind Temple's finicky control scheme, along with the difficulty of that temple, isn't doing him any favors. Plus, he's not as cute as Medli. And I'm with you in why Medli is a beloved character of the Zelda series. Her bravery is a series icon that definitely leads to an example that, you know what? Don't wait for the world to be saved. Go out there and be a part of it. Taking action is a far more honorable move than just taking the easy route and waiting for things to happen. Everyone here knows I'm not a fan of Majora's Mask. I've already explained it a million times, you guys don't need to hear it another million times. And I admit, the character development is exceptional in this game. It's the game's theme about it being an apocalypse that is centered around that makes it all kind of meh to me. But what if it's more about a character that relates to me, something I've gone through before and recovered from, and that is depression back in 2013. There are 3 characters that go through depression in Majora's Mask. First is Lulu, but there's nothing relatable because like Link, she doesn't talk at all, so there's nothing to expand on. The second woman in depression is Anju, so the reason I'm not picking her is because I can't relate to her kind of depression over her boyfriend, and I'm sorry, but I'm not the type to take shots in the dark about stuff I don't understand. That's borderline judging a person in my books. That's a no-no for me. So this introduces Cremia from Majora's Mask. A myth is in depression that depressed people are sad all the time and walk around all mopey-popey all the time. But Cremia's execution is a better take of how depression actually works. Depressed people can actually function normally around others and carry on a normal conversation just like those who aren't in depression are. Just check out this conversation. How can you tell if someone is in depression or not is their history. It's something that builds up over a long period of time. It's not an overnight phenomenon. Cremia talks about her dead father, being overwhelmed with the work, and taking care of Romani. Cremia is an awesome reminder to me that depressed people, that although they're going through a rough patch, are still just as normal of people as anyone else. And it's refreshing to see that being represented in a video game character. Unfortunately, I have more to say and expand on, but I won't say it. It's one of those things where you have to hike a mile in the shoes of depression and recover from it to really understand and appreciate what their perspective offers. Let's just say it's better to keep some things personal with a sensitive topic such as this. So, I have a character from Skyward Sword on here. Now you're probably expecting one out of the three usual suspects, which is Zelda, Groose, or Girahim. No. But I'll explain why, starting with Zelda. I didn't have any problems with Zelda not being in her princess trope, but I honestly felt like they tried too hard with it, trying to get a forced friendship and love connection down our throats with it about Link. In my opinion, it's not realistic, it was too set up in execution rather than something that felt authentic or genuine. Felt like a dollhouse scenario to me. Not a fan of Groose because I found everything about him obnoxious and not in a good way. His theme song, his hair, his attitude, every time he appeared I just wanted to kick him. Just someone that didn't click with my personality at all. And as for Girahim, I'm just not a fan of clown characters who do random things for the sake of being random. A lot of people like them, like with Kefka from Final Fantasy VI and the Joker from Batman, but I'm not a fan of them. It's a weird and freak me out random to me, not a cute and funny random as some find value in. My actual number 5 entry is someone that's related to one of these characters, and this is... Okay, I'm going to say it. I love Gaepora because he's so incredible at being empathetic, caring, and so down to earth towards others. When Link loses Zelda on their locked wings and when Link is brought back to Skyloft, Gaepora, being Zelda's father, I thought he was going to freak, banish Link, break a vase, or do something extreme. And he doesn't. Instead, he treats Link like his own son, gets him back up on his feet, and wholeheartedly supports Link to go out into the world to find Zelda. Just like Quill, he has an aura that just breathes respect from him along with the personality to back it up, with his good nature and good intentions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to talk about him because he's not there for long. But amidst all of these other characters that are around, the reason I ranked him up so high is because he made Skyward Sword's story a lot more tolerable when it comes to the characters and to the overall experience. And I'll take any positives I can get from Skyward Sword because, in my opinion, Skyward Sword is it's a great game and I really enjoy it, but it definitely had room for improvement in a few areas. Okay, so about my favorite 3D Zelda game, oh forget it, you know who it is. Probably the big surprise here is that, what? Slashstar, Midna isn't in your top 3? She has like a lot of character development, and it's your top favorite 3D game. What treachery is this? Well, here's something that'll knock your socks off further. Midna is not my favorite companion in the Zelda series. That privilege is for number 3 entry, so hold on a minute. What gives Midna the massive advantage is that she's the most interactive companion to date in the Zelda series. Every time you come across a situation, however big or small, she has a very snarky response to everything you do or come across, which immediately boosts her leagues ahead of the other companions is because her character is brought to the forefront. Cool. Having a quiet Link all throughout your adventures is a little, well, quiet. It's good to have a friend who livens up the game experience a bit. But what I want to talk about is Link a little bit because this is the crucial part to Midna's development throughout the game. All throughout the first half of the game, he's been bullied, blackmailed, and enslaved to do Midna's bidding to collect the first 3 artifacts. So, after the Lakebed Temple, after Zant knocks down Link and where Midna is barely breathing to stay alive, do you know what Link could have done? Abandoned her. He could have left her there and went on adventuring on his zone to solve his problems. He could have pulled it off. Link has gone through his share of impossible odds, but he doesn't. Why, Link? That's a genuine question I have to ask him. She's been putting you through her torture. Now was his chance to escape. When I played Mass Effect 2 in a similar situation, I let my comrade kill someone that had betrayed him and killed 10 of his guys, and I don't feel guilty letting him do it. I'm clearly not like Link. I'm usually the peaceful person in video games, or the paragon to say in Mass Effect, but I can kill a person if they killed other people and won't feel sorry for it, because I can find peace in knowing they won't kill more people, and there's a side of me that thinks they deserve it. But unlike me, he doesn't. Despite all that Midna had done to him, Link provides the rare gift of chivalry in this situation. He provides comfort, he runs straight to Zelda to help out Midna, and to another layer to add on more selflessness around her, Zelda sacrifices herself so that Midna can live once more. And this changes Midna. She was so used to a life of selfishness, of forcing others to do her whims, that these were the answers to survival and treating others, and then when the tables turned, Link could have done the same thing as Midna and left her for dead and deserted her just like any other common liability she came across. That Midna would have done. But instead, Link demonstrates selflessness, mercy, of being a friend, and showing how he is a role model to those children who look up to him back at his hometown and the fantastic individual that he is, and how he becomes the hero that he is. And we know what happens after that. Midna starts to develop the perspective that, you know what, maybe it's not good to treat your friends like dogs. It doesn't really get you too far in life. Sheesh, after all that, who beat Midna? Well, take a look at the name of the series and you have your answer. No. So yes, one of the big things on my Zelda wish list for the longest of time was that Zelda was more involved with the Zelda game, especially with the disappointment of her dismal involvement in Twilight Princess. Slashstar criticized Twilight Princess, his favorite 3D Zelda game. Guys, I'm not a Zelda fanboy, so that means I can acknowledge its weaknesses for other Zelda players despite it catering highly to my video game preferences in video games. Twilight Princess has pacing problems, too many situational items, those bugs say hi, and some don't like the art style or wolf gimmick. These don't bother me personally. I can see how it can be for others. But my personal biggest gripe with the game is that you know absolutely zero about Zelda and Twilight Princess. Usually I don't mind this, but it's way jarring when you're confronted by a lot of characters in one game who do develop, and then by the time you're riding on the horse with her against Ganondorf, I was saying to myself, yo, who are you? It was way weird. Zelda felt like a complete stranger, and ever since then I started hoping that someday a Zelda game would deliver on this front. And finally, that glimmer of hope came, and Spirit Tracks became my savior. For the first and probably last time in Zelda history, Zelda is your companion and is obligated to go with Link to go save the world. Finally! What took them so long? Right from the get-go from Spirit Tracks, you immediately meet up with Zelda. And well, I carried on with my usual, well, let's get to the small chit-chat, then be on my way, and then she wants to go on an adventure with you! What? Zelda is getting involved? Am I playing the right series? This is madness. Madness! It doesn't stop there. Though she is hesitant at first, she goes with you through the Tower of the Spirits and develops into a hero from there, being a phantom. However, the star quality about Zelda is that for the first time, she's forced out of her comfort zone to help Link out in this series with her determination to want to help Link, and through her efforts in the Tower of Spirits. Along with adding to some incredible puzzles, you can slowly see the introverted princess change into a hero just like Link is. And that's a fantastic change of events to see the damsel in distress being a hero for a change. Now look at this. Look at this. Aww. I hope there's another Zelda game that does this again someday. You know what? Scratch that. Sitcoms torture me enough with this romance shit as it does. I want you to look at the title of this video. Top 10 personal favorite Zelda characters. This next guy is a Zelda character. He is part of the Zelda universe. So yes, damn it, he deserves to be on this list. Can we appreciate for a moment the kind of hell that Link goes through? And you want to know the strange thing about this? Link always volunteers to go out on his adventures, but you know what? He doesn't have to. Or he could have chickened out. I mean, he's a kid in about 90% of his games other than Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and the later half of Ocarina of Time. And that's the thing. Link didn't have to be a hero. He could have stayed in Kokiri Forest. He could have got scared and wanting to save his sister in Wind Waker. I mean, he's a kid. He should be pooping his pants at this point. It's unrealistic to expect him to raise his hand in bravery when these scary things happen around him at this age. But he doesn't. He adapts, he fights on, conquering dungeons, acquiring items, and the reason for all this is on his left hand. Or right hand, depending on which Zelda game you're referring to. The Triforce of Courage. It's his symbol. Someone who never thinks of himself but only of others. But now the only question, why at number 2? Isn't he like the star of the series? Well, the only downside to Link is that he doesn't talk. And this is from my video game preferences, but I prefer characters who talk over ones that are mute. The big problem with this is that he's a man of action, which in itself isn't inherently bad, but we actually know absolutely nothing about Link and his background in any of his games that we can relate to, while my number 1 choice is someone I can completely relate to. When I was doing my Let's Play for Master Quest recently, I came across the towering fight with Ganon, and then I found myself not finding the fight very immersive. I was confused. Then I asked myself this question: why do a lot of Zelda fans find this fight immersive but I don't? Even when playing this boss my first time, I didn't find him incredible at all. I thought he was boring. I was intrigued by these feelings. Why are my views so different from the common Zelda players sometimes? I know, I'm human, I have opinions, but I've got to face up to it that it's a common trend that Zelda players belittle me for on my channel that I wasn't saying the popular things. So I did some investigating. I wanted to close this book of mystery once and for all, and this was what I found. During the battle of the Let's Play, I started to figure it out. Ever since I was 5 years old, I've been playing violent video games like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, and Metal Gear Solid before playing Ocarina of Time. When you go up against these atrocities, yeah, it makes a lot more sense now. It also taught me why I'm so different from the Zelda fanbase. I take the other video games I play into account with my video game preferences rather than judge it strictly by Zelda's own terms, which by the internet usually does. Which is something I frankly don't do because I developed a lifetime habit of gaming away from the internet's influences. The internet is a toxic sludge bomb with negativity about video games, and well, being an optimist, why would I want to inherit the stupid attitudes to dislike more video games or get after other people's opinions about it? That seems counterintuitive to me. If you're a gamer and supposedly enjoy video games, you'd look for games or reasons for them to be enjoyed. So why look for reasons to hate them? Why limit yourself in a hobby you supposedly love? That's your kick? Your goal? To make your gaming library smaller? So, because I was away from the internet's influences, my personal Zelda views differed from the internet's views on Zelda, and they conflicted when I started YouTube. For example, if a Zelda player comes up to me and says Wind Waker's my #1 game because of the graphics, and a lot of Zelda players on the internet would agree with that. But I would say, I grew up with the Sega Genesis, so graphics is less important to me, which is why the gameplay from the 2D Zelda games appealed to me more than the usual internet Zelda player. This explained why the 2D games were ignored more on the internet and why a lot of Zelda players were cuddling with the 3D games for their graphics. With Zelda 2, it's a turnoff for many since it's supposed to be an easy Zelda game like the rest of the series. But for me, I like the difficulty high from Castlevania, Mega Man, and Battletoads, so I like that game more than the usual Zelda player. Same pattern, the internet judged it was Zelda by itself. I focused on my gaming experiences with other series. With Four Swords Adventures, Zelda fans were disappointed that it didn't stick with its traditional roots. As for me, I'm way more lenient with video games that decide to try a new style in general, like Resident Evil 6, DMC Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy 13, and the 3D Sonic the Hedgehog games, at which those are constantly criticized on the internet. Why was I more lenient? Because I wasn't around the negative influences the internet had when they established those prejudices on those games on the internet. I had a clean personal judgment on them, isolating myself from those hate boner influences. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense now. So my number one pick for a Zelda character who embodies this is Princess Agatha from Twilight Princess. She's so adorable and relatable. I feel like she kind of grew up just like I did without a lot of outside influence in her life. For me, I didn't grow up with the internet's influence when I played my video games. Even today, I'm extremely skeptical of the internet and its views. And so when I present myself not having grown up in that environment, I sometimes do get judged for not following the internet norm. And I'm not sorry about it. And I'm completely respectful for how someone else happened to grow up around their video games and their lifestyles. Everyone is different. Agatha seems to symbolize that for me. She seems to steer herself away from public opinions and doesn't seem interested in them or being called what's normal or popular in the public eye, but instead follows her own way and what makes life good for her personally. And I can relate to that. I think it's about doing what you want to do in life rather than paying attention to those who hiss at you for not following the popularity norm. Challenging the status quo, so to say. And that's the way I roll in my videos, in playing my video games, and in life in general. And that's why she's my number one Zelda character.